Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, RockAuto.com, and by DieHard. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, John Davis.
Thank you, Alec Webb, for introducing myself and all of us here at MotorWeek podcast number 102. Joining me around our table in Studio C at MotorWeek Central is road test producer Ben Davis.
Hello.
Our writer-producer, two-wheeling reporter Brian Robinson.
What's up?
He has the longest title of anybody on the staff. And our consummate writer, Patrick Lucas.
I'm here decked out in my MotorWeek gear.
And you look really spiffy today.
Thank you.
Looking smart.
All right, we have a lightning round and a viewer question, but let's get to the cars that everyone wants to talk about. In honor of the beginning of the 34th season of Motor Week that's launching, let's talk about what viewers can expect and what they're going to be looking forward to. So coming up in our season 34, what do you think is going to be, when we look back on season 34 a year from now, do you think there's going to be anything that we'll say, well, this was the year of? Any thoughts?
Plug-in performance hybrids.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I think that's part of what I've been calling like the revolution of the automobile.
Good segue.
Patrick, any?
I totally agree. So, stuff with more battery, electric powered.
I was asked just the other day what I thought at the auto shows, what might be one of the biggest surprise. I think we're going to see a lot more all-wheel drive vehicles using electric assist, either for the rear wheels or some way, shape, or form. Just think of the amount of hardware that's going to save. So it could be just the further electrification of the automobile, and that's kind of a pretty good segue to the highlight of our first episode in the new season, and that's the 2015 BMW i8, the show car for the street that's an advanced hybrid with a gasoline engine in the back, an electric motor up front, and we got to spend a very interesting week with the i8. What'd you all think?
I love that. I think that car is
it looks spectacular, but what about to drive it?
It's awesome to drive. That power is down low where you want it, and it just constantly pours it on through that all-wheel drive. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, I find it as exotic as it looked outside, and interior looks pretty far out too. But just to drive it, it felt surprisingly normal. It just felt like a normal car with a lot of performance.
Patrick?
Yeah, I don't know. I just hope more cars take that daring kind of approach to design and overall, philosophy, the way the car carries itself, and everyone.
It was exciting to look at.
It's just
oddly enough, I didn't get anybody's head to turn.
Really?
It was strange.
Well, I did.
Greg and I were getting bummed out.
I will say that with those compromised doors, they're not gull wings, they're not scissors, they're a combination of the both. And that high sill that you basically had to sit in to get into. It's not the easiest vehicle, to ride around in. But when you think about $130,000 price and what people are paying for exotic cars these days, it's a steal.
I didn't think it was that bad to get in and out.
Well, you're younger and fitter than I am, obviously.
Not much, but it was a ton of fun. Just to explain, if people don't know, it's actually got a 3-cylinder turbo engine, same engine that's in the base Mini Cooper, oddly enough,
which we loved.
And that's in the back, and that only powers the rear wheels. And up front, there's just a big electric motor that powers the front wheels, and they do their thing together.
And it's not seamless, but it's not jarring. When one's operating or the other. Some people have thrown bricks at them for piping in fake engine noise into the cabin, but
every car now.
To me, it added to the thrill of the car. It looks like a sports car. It sounds like a sports car. It's definitely, I think, going to be the wave of the future, and I'm sure if they wanted to sell a lot more than 500 of them, they could. The car we had was a European model, so we couldn't actually even plug it in. But I never got low on electricity. It only has about a 20-mile range, so it only has half the range of, say, a Chevy Volt. But 14 to 20, it sort of hung around that mark.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate we couldn't plug it in to fully test it out, the battery range. But it regenerates a lot, especially in sport mode. BMW claims that when you're in sport mode, every mile you drive, you add a mile of onto the EV range. So,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say that I actually saw it go up that quickly, but I left here to go up into western Pennsylvania with 14 miles worth of electric assist and came back, and it was 14 miles when I got back. And so that was a distance of about a little over 200 miles. So all in all, I can't complain. I asked a question to someone else. I said, it's interesting that we're so, and everybody in the automotive community is quite excited about this car that costs 3 times what a Chevy Volt does, has basically the same concept, and has half the EV range. So are we really just so excited because this is something so unusual?
Oh, absolutely. The thing
Well,
looks great.
And it's a lot more fun to drive.
A lot more fun to drive,
That's
obviously.
for sure.
That's what it all comes down to. It's something you want to enjoy being in.
I guess my point was it's not actually a technological advance.
From a design standpoint, though,
Yeah.
I hope all cars take that.
It's spectacular.
Don't look exactly like it, but take that kind of approach.
I'm so tired of everything starting to look so vanilla again.
Oh, my gosh.
And, we get sedan after sedan in here, and if you put a piece of cloth over the front grille, you can't tell what they are.
I would say the i8's a pretty big step up from a Volt. I mean, it's a lot more.
yeah,
it's not the same system.
What I did like about the car a lot, and I like the car a lot, but one of the things I thought was very smart on their behalf is they didn't feel the compulsion to make everything on the interior futuristic. They had basically good, competent BMW controls.
Yeah.
Same ones you'd find in the 5 or 7 Series. And so when you got in, there was it was all wild looking, but there was a certain sense of familiarity when you had to actually operate something.
And it was refreshing to see that the use of materials wasn't out there either. I mean, the headliner was cloth. It looked like they did some money saving on the inside. It looked good, but it wasn't over the top crazy, like the Cadillac version, like the Cadillac ELR. That's a little crazy inside.
Yeah, I think the big shortcoming of the ELR is you're paying twice the money for a Volt for basically a car that drives like the Volt and doesn't get any more EV range.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so the i8's coming up on MotorWeek, and we hope you catch it because we had fun doing that road test like almost never before. Ben,
Yes.
one of the hottest new markets, so is being projected by just about everyone in the business, is the luxury compact crossover utility. And you have just come back from driving the first small Lexus crossover, the NX, so tell us about it.
Yeah, no doubt. I am definitely the luxury crossover compact guy.
You've been in that and the Lincoln MKC lately.
That's for sure. It shares the same wheelbase as the RAV4, although it's an entirely different vehicle. They share the same firewall and a couple other pieces, but Lexus's was pretty. They drove that fact home that it's definitely not a RAV4 turned into a Lexus. I spent a lot of time in the F-Sport model, which they're not kidding when they juiced up that suspension. That car handled extremely well, almost borderline too firm for me.
Do you think that it's had more of the character of an X1, BMW X1?
Possibly, yeah.
I wonder if that's what they're aiming at. They're aiming the F-Sport at.
Yeah, they definitely did a good job focusing the F-Sport on people that are definitely out for more performance.
What do you think about the roominess? I mean, after all, the Lexus RX, which is the mainstay of the brand, that pretty much plays to an older clientele.
Sure, with more family members. If you're single or maybe a single parent or something, then this is a perfect size. There's not a lot of room to store anything behind the rear seats, but the rear seats themselves are generous for adults. Oddly enough, though, I found the front to be a little cramped. The center console is a little wide, and it kind of cuts into the legroom. But it's a decent size. Certainly, I would, if you had a dog or if you're holding a lot of equipment around, a lot of sporting equipment, I would go for an RX or something bigger. But
did you spend any
it's just
time
that
in the
right
hybrid?
size. A little bit of time in the hybrid. Even that's kind of focused towards performance. A nice ride in general. But mainly I focused on the gas models.
Now, we haven't had the NX here at the shop, but I know everybody's seen photos and read a little bit about it. Any reaction?
I mean,
Is this the right vehicle for the right market?
Well, there's certainly be a market for it. It looks pretty aggressive to me for a
sure
typical
does,
Lexus.
yeah.
I mean, it's not like a smaller RX at all.
I thought the concept was downright ugly, but I actually like the production model.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, people want the luxury, people don't. But the fact that the MKC takes a similar thing, they get rid of the space, to make it look cooler, I guess. I don't know why the space is so much less, but I would rather it's the same wheelbase. It's the same. Wouldn't have to take all the space out. It would make me a lot happier. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think there's some people that want the practicality,
Sure.
Well, the Buick Enclave, they can't build them fast enough. So, I mean, and that's pretty small.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things where, I mean, I guess you kind of have to compete in the segment just to stay relevant. So, I mean, they might grab some sales, but
all you guys are younger than I am, and they hope to get a younger audience. Do you think younger, well-off folks are going to be drawn to this kind of vehicle at Lexus? I mean, they have a problem with their buyers getting very old.
I don't know about at Lexus, but I mean the segment itself on paper is appealing because you get the compact, sporty kind of drive, but you get the quote unquote space for utility. So on paper, it sounds good. So I don't understand why people wouldn't be drawn to it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think they've been trying to get more aggressive in their looks and their handling. So I think maybe this is the first vehicle to really pull that off, maybe for them. So do well.
And they are doing their small cars are actually doing very well for the first time with younger buyers. Okay, turning to another luxury brand, and this time a car. The Acura TL has been the mainstay car for Acura for decades, and it's really been one of the, along with the MDX, one of the two vehicles that's kept the brand afloat. Now they've come out with a new replacement, which replaces not only the TL, but also the TSX, and that is the TLX. And Ben, once again, you were on the preview and had a chance to drive it. So here's a car about the size, a little bit smaller than the car it replaces. Do you think it's still going to be the bell ringer for the brand?
Yeah, I do. I mean, the wheelbase is the same as the TL. They chopped a little bit off of each end and narrowed it a little bit. It's in the ring with a lot of competition, though. I mean, you're up against A4 3 Series, Mercedes C-Class, Cadillac
Many times
ATS.
in the past, we've said that the TL could hold its own, not be superior, could hold its own against that competition and often offered you a lot more bang for the buck.
Yeah,
Is that enough anymore?
I don't think it's enough anymore, no. I think this car, Acura is definitely teaming up against those European cars. I think it's probably better matched against Maximas, Tauruses, and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I think it's more in that vein. It's a little bold to think that this car is going to pose much of a threat to
Is it a new chassis, or is it still a TL chassis, or TSX chassis?
It measures up against the Accord, the current Accord. Mm-hmm. So it's probably got a little. I don't think it's the European Accord chassis anymore.
Right, but every model has four-wheel steering, and you can get SHAWD in it. So as far as technologically speaking, it's all there in spades. The design through the profile and stuff is a little vanilla to bring it. It has a signature grille and signature headlights, but aside from that, it would be hard to ID this car as an Acura from any other angle than the front, which kind of hurts it in this category to go up against these 3 Series and A4. I mean, these cars are pretty distinctive at any angle. So I was hoping that this would be more aggressive, I guess, to say.
Patrick, any comment?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't had much exposure to the car, so it's kind of hard for me to be enthusiastic or speak to it in great detail, but I liked the ILX when it came out. The RLX we have is I don't know, a lot of people kind of knock it, but I think it's pretty comfortable.
It's a very nice long distance car.
And I enjoy cruising in it, so I'd be curious once we get it in here for a little more testing to spend some time with it. This
is the first time they've done a TL-esque car with a 4-cylinder. Now, it's got both the 4-cylinder and a 6. The TSX had a 4-cylinder. Did you spend much time between the two and your impression of the 4-cylinder?
Yeah, I drove them all. It's weird because it's a naturally aspirated 4-cylinder in a field of turbocharged force. It did a pretty good job. It's 209 horsepower. I didn't see a whole lot of difference between that and the 6-cylinder, really, in casual to semi-spirited driving back to back. So it's definitely adequate enough, and it feels good.
They've also always sold that car based on technology, because it's always been a fairly high-tech vehicle. Any advances there that knocked your socks off or surprised you?
No, definitely no advances. Everything that I was assuming would be in the car is, but compared to the cars that they're teaming it up against, there is some technology that's lacking. Like, say, there's a lot more autonomous driving characteristics in the Mercedes C-Class and stuff like that aren't available in this car. But for the money, they do offer a lot of content, which would otherwise cost you a lot of money in the cars they're competing against.
So not a step backwards, but and really Acura has never been that adventuresome. So it sounds like it's kind of like what you'd expect from them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it'll sell to the masses.
Okay, let's move on now to our lightning round. Our panelists have 2 minutes to debate a trending automotive topic, and when it's up, you're going to hear the bell. So let's get going. We've just touched on it, so let's go back and revisit it. Automatic braking systems, one of the systems that has got a lot of interest from us. Enough vehicles have them now that they're not really a gimmick anymore. Have we ever encountered it in real-world driving? Did it save us from an accident? Undoubtedly, it'll become more effective as technology advances. Are we excited about what they call collision mitigation systems in automatic braking? Mind you, we are adding a test to our regiment, the first new test we've added to the show in a very long time, to test some of these systems. But from a driver's standpoint, how do you feel about automatic braking and so forth?
Yeah, I mean, there's something that's going to keep me from having an accident. Obviously, I'm glad it's there. I'm not sure whether I'm excited about it. Some of the systems are integrated better than others. I mean, we've talked a lot about constantly getting, false alarms from cars, whether you're going around like a sharp turn or just cars parked along the side of the road, or
trees.
Trees up and down
telephone
hills. I have never had one save me from an accident. I've never actually had the brakes applied. I've gotten a lot of warnings. And, in the RLX long term that we have if you're using the adaptive cruise, it will use some braking to slow you down. But I've experienced that a couple times. But that's at high speeds, and you're coming up on somebody, going 15 miles an hour slower than you, and it just eases the brakes to slow you down a little bit.
Actually, radar cruise control drives me crazy.
Yeah.
But
I haven't had any experience with the actual braking, but all the warning systems. I've had, like, in a controlled environment. I've the Mitsubishi Outlander, which we haven't talked about in a while, but that actually had a full to a complete stop braking system. I used that. It was in a parking lot, obviously a controlled setup environment, and it worked pretty well. It's hard to fight your instinct not to touch the brake pedal.
Exactly.
But if you don't do anything, it will stop you. As far as the warnings go in the real world, I was on a Subaru event for the Legacy, and we were driving along the PCH. I was with my girlfriend, and we were like, looking out at the ocean, look at all these beautiful views, and we were coming up on a car that was going way slower than me. Warning went off, and I immediately whipped back around, and it kind of pre-tensioned the brake a little bit. So that, saved me from
and that's the eyesight
potential
system, which IIHS says is the best out there, which is interesting.
I've had that.
I was on an Infiniti JX preview, and did the backup where it'll stop you if there's an object behind you, and it went straight into a dumpster for camera.
Whoops.
It works. No, I didn't touch the dumpster. It stopped me, but it was a little nerve-wracking.
I had a couple of situations where the backup systems the rear cross traffic alert has worked well.
Yeah.
So actually, I think that may even be a
Challenger,
better idea.
I tested that out.
Patrick hit on it. I mean, if you at all act on your own, some of the systems don't work, because it's only there if you are
don't
not
do
acting
anything.
Yet. So I think I was in a similar Lexus event testing, and you've got to keep your foot on the gas pedal for those brakes to actually come on. If you let off the gas pedal, it's going to let, at least that card, it's going to let you plow right into whatever it is you think you're avoiding. But so it's just there as a safety measure. It's not there to drive the car for you.
Some of the systems, basically, if you have your feet completely off, it will still interact. But they're all a little bit different. I think that's one of the things that our challenge is that we have different vehicles that we get in with different programs and different systems. Okay, that wraps up
always times
our,
that just right.
That's amazing.
our lightning round. Just amazing how you can do that in this business. Okay, let's talk about a viewer question. Ken emails, with all the new hybrids hitting the market in 2015, and there's too much to cover, so we'll interpret this in our own way. What are the most exciting and intriguing hybrids coming this year? Anything new or unexpected? I mean, we just basically talked about probably the most outrageous one, the i8. Looking ahead in hybrids for 2015.
LaFerrari.
Yeah, that's definitely the most obvious one out there.
That's the one that's going to get everybody's attention.
Yeah, and the Porsche 918 Spider too.
It seems to me, and we hit on it in one of our recent scripts, that a lot of the new hybrids that are coming out don't seem to be going for the gold. They're not out there to basically get Prius-style fuel economy. They're just out there to get nice, healthy gains. And that shows me that technology is maturing, that it's going to become even more mainstream.
Yeah, it's just becoming another engine choice. Whether you want, instead of 4-cylinder or V6, you go 4-cylinder or hybrid to give you a little bit of the power of the close to a V6, but a lot better fuel economy. So
I really wouldn't be surprised to see, as all of these CAFE requirements keep cranking in over the next 10 years, that if a hybrid powertrain with a small engine is not going to become the standard powertrain.
Volvo's ramping up like 100% almost for that.
That's where they're going.
They're doing the turbo and supercharged 4-cylinder with a plug-in hybrid module
about
somewhere
complex.
else. Yeah, they just released the whole diagram of the new chassis for the XC90 and where all the components go and everything. It'd be pretty scary if something went wrong with that, taking that thing into a shop.
I think that's actually the unspoken real gremlin here, that all of this new technology and the powertrains, and we are in a powertrain revolution, is going to be outrageously expensive to fix. And I don't know, you never know. If you've got that old beater in the garage, it could be worth a lot of money about 10 years from now.
You haven't heard of any real scoops as far as what's coming out, but I think to make current hybrids more in the plug-in vein, make the battery a little bit bigger, allow people to get 15-20 miles by plugging it in, at night or whatever. I think that would make
one or two.
Yeah, I think that would make a huge difference.
Yeah, I think the technology in battery packs is advancing so rapidly that they can, with the size of the battery packs now, they can, I don't know what the number is, but like theoretically, double, 10 times, something like that, the capacity and the range.
But the cost hasn't come down. I guess that's one of the things that this the Tesla folks looking at this new battery plant that they want to build with Panasonic might have an impact there. And that's still the bugaboo. I mean, the chatter on the internet is all about what the next Volt will be and whether or not it's going to have a lot more range, and all the indications are from GM is it won't. So we'll see. It'll be a little bit better than what it is now.
Maybe more than this year, maybe a few years from now, it'll be different.
I think so. I think it's going to have to be.
Well, they'll be driving diesels then anyway, so it won't really matter.
Rather than electric cars. According to the experts. Okay, that brings to an end our MotorWeek podcast number 102. I'd like to thank our panelists, Ben Davis, Brian Robinson, and Patrick Lucas.
Hey,
Patrick also is our podcast producer.
That's right.
Our podcast creator, Bob Mixter, and our audio engineer, who makes us always sound brilliant, is Jim Bigwood. And thank you, Jim, for making us do that again today. To all of you, please make sure that you catch our show, MotorWeek, on public television stations around the country. If you are not sure what time or what channel, check our website at motorweek.org, and we're also on the Velocity cable channel. On behalf of all of us at MotorWeek, thank you for listening, and drive carefully out there.
You have been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, RockAuto.com, and by Die Hard. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at motorweek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series, each week on your local PBS station.